Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's complete. Another touchdown!
Cougar Sports Saturday. A presentation of KSL Sports.
Left wing for three. He got it again!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Good afternoon, Cougar Nation. Welcome into a Easter weekend edition of Cougar Sports Saturday. Matt Baiamonte and Mitch Harper joining you. Hope you've had a wonderful day today. I'm sure most people were out this morning doing family Easter egg hunts. Your kids do any Easter egg stuff this morning?
We will tomorrow.
Okay.
No, assuming tomorrow, but yes.
No city egg hunts, or have you graduated from that?
All sporting events for the kids today.
Fair.
Basketball, softball, flag football. So just busy, so we don't have any time.
Hey, speaking of busy, the world of BYU sports has been busy, Mitch. Yesterday was honestly a crazy day in the world of BYU sports. You got transfer portal news. There was a crazy softball comeback, men's volleyball. It's going to be a day I remember for a long time because there was just so much going on. But, Mitch, we got to start things off with the transfer portal. It absorbs our lives right now, and there was some big news yesterday of a current player in the portal.
The starting lineup. A look at the stories making headlines right now. It's time for the starting lineup on Cougar Sports Saturday.
Keelan Marion, he is going portaling. That's right, Keelan Marion, All-American kick returner and guy that was going to be a huge impact player at wide receiver this season. He is entering the transfer portal. It is a surprising move because, again, he was going to be someone that was going to be a big piece to BYU's offense in this season, for this 2025 season. In spring ball, Jake Retzloff was saying, Keelan was an All-American kick returner. Now we're going to make him an All-American at wide receiver. And huge expectations for a guy that they were calling Agent Uno. He had the number changed to number 1. Now he's going into the portal. Clearly that buzz that was coming out of Provo caught the antennas of other teams around the country because Keelan Marion is going into the portal.
There's so many tentacles to this story. And I think without sounding, like I have been eating sour grapes, I've just become insanely frustrated with the system that we have for college sports. And look, BYU has benefited from this recently, right?
Yes. The
polar opposite of this happened a week ago when they got Rob Wright out of the portal. He leaves Baylor. It was unexpected. BYU lands him, and everyone's jumping in the streets, dancing for joy because you have an ultra-talented point guard paired with A.J. DeBonsa, potentially Richie Saunders if he returns, and it looks like this basketball team has the makings to make a deep, deep run in the NCAA tournament. And then a week later, the opposite happens to you, where you're well after spring ball. That is in the distant past, and this window opens up, and multiple days go by. No one enters of significance. We'll get to the full list in a little bit. When I say significance, no one who was going to be relied upon to have a big role, Mitch. And then for Keelan Marion, yesterday afternoon to put your name in, it was shocking because he was the primary offensive weapon in spring football. They used him in, dare we say, the Puka Nacua role.
Yeah, he was. And you saw signs of that last November when his workload was increasing. The ASU game, the Houston game, the bowl game, Keelan Marion was getting utilized like Puka Nacua. It's crazy to say because you think, well, are you comparing him to Puka? No, we're not saying that, but they were utilizing him in many different ways on the ground, in the receiving game. He was going to be a huge weapon. And Keelan Marion took on a massive spotlight role in spring without Chase Roberts, who was banged up and recovering from injury. It was a chance for him to shine, and he did. And in those media observation periods in spring practice, Keelan Marion was outstanding. And to suddenly lose that, you go, man, that's a big blow. So it's a bummer for BYU. And you saw the players reacting on social media. Isaiah Jada had a sad emoji. Trey Alexander, a fellow Atlanta, Georgia native, He had the Will Smith Fresh Prince of Bel-Air gif where he's looking in the room, and I think it's the series finale one. He had that reaction. Guys like Pokai Hunga were reacting. John Moa. Sione Moa, excuse me. But they were all reacting because this was a little bit of a shock that they were not expecting.
And I like that you bring up Pokai because I spoke with him in spring football, and he particularly mentioned Keelan Marion as being a pivotal leader on the offensive side of the football. And that is tough to lose at the end of the spring period, which the spring period, it's up for debate how valuable it is. But one thing is clear. You get about 30 to 40 practices before you start playing games. A good chunk of those are in the spring. Mm-hmm. And a lot of focus was given to Keelan Marion on expanding that role. And if he does not return, because he hasn't announced a new school yet.
Yeah.
But
so there's always that there's their opportunity to come back.
And we need to get to that too. But it's not said and done that he's gone. But, when someone enters at this stage, it makes you wonder, did he get a late offer? And the money's too good to pass up. And so, another tentacle here is, how does this affect spring ball in terms of, do you even want to showcase anybody? Because if you roll Keelan Marion out, they didn't have to play him. Yeah. They could have just said, we're going straight development. We're going straight Tay Nakua and Don McKenzie and others, and you don't even play him. Is there even any buzz? Because Matt Rule talked about this. He's like, we're done with spring games. We don't want anyone to put any tape out there. Not that there's tape in this case.
BYU's creative team putting out a hype video in spring ball about Adrian Uno. And
right.
Kalani, the coaches were talking about him. If I was a coach, and look, as a media member, I don't want this to be the case, but I wouldn't highlight anyone. I wouldn't say anything about anyone because, these coaches around the country are monitoring every roster.
Yep.
And when you see someone that's an All-American kick returner, the best in the sport, now he's trending up as a receiver too. I like that. What can we do to get that guy? Oh, he's from the SEC, Atlanta, Georgia area. Maybe we could get this guy closer to home.
Yep, absolutely. And I think my biggest frustration here is not towards Keelan.
No.
Because Keelan Marion probably sees an opportunity here. And we have all been in those situations before. And it's hard to pass up. There's so much more to react to. So we'll continue reacting to this on the other side.
It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's complete. Another touchdown!
Cougar Sports Saturday. A presentation of KSL Sports.
Left wing for three. He got it again!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Good afternoon, Cougar Nation. Welcome into a Easter weekend edition of Cougar Sports Saturday. Matt Baiamonte and Mitch Harper joining you. Hope you've had a wonderful day today. I'm sure most people were out this morning doing family Easter egg hunts. Did your kids do any Easter egg stuff this morning?
We will tomorrow.
Okay.
No, assuming tomorrow, but yes.
No city egg hunts, or have
it's
you
all
graduated
sports,
from that?
All sporting events for the kids today.
Fair.
Basketball, softball, flag football. So just busy, so we don't have any time.
Hey, speaking of busy, the world of BYU sports has been busy, Mitch. Yesterday was honestly a crazy day in the world of BYU sports. You got transfer portal news. There was a crazy softball comeback, men's volleyball. It's going to be a day I remember for a long time because there was just so much going on. But, Mitch, we got to start things off with the transfer portal. It absorbs our lives right now, and there was some big news yesterday of a current player in the portal.
The starting lineup. A look at the stories making headlines right now. It's time for the starting lineup on Cougar Sports Saturday.
Keelan Marion, he is going portaling. That's right, Keelan Marion, All-American kick returner and guy that was going to be a huge impact player at wide receiver this season. He is entering the transfer portal. It is a surprising move because, again, he was going to be someone that was going to be a big piece to BYU's offense in this season, for this 2025 season. In spring ball, Jake Retzloff was saying, Keelan was an All-American kick returner. Now we're going to make him an All-American at wide receiver. And huge expectations for a guy that they were calling Agent Uno. He had the number changed to number 1. Now he's going into the portal. Clearly that buzz that was coming out of Provo caught the antennas of other teams around the country because Keelan Marion is going into the portal.
There's so many tentacles to this story, and I think without sounding, like I've been eating sour grapes, I've just become insanely frustrated with the system that we have for college sports. And look, BYU has benefited from this recently, right?
Yes.
The polar opposite of this happened a week ago when they got Rob Wright out of the portal. He leaves Baylor. It was unexpected. BYU lands him, and everyone's jumping in the streets, dancing for joy because you have an ultra-talented point guard paired with A.J. DeBonsa, potentially Richie Saunders if he returns, and it looks like this basketball team has the makings to make a deep, deep run in the NCAA tournament. And then a week later, the opposite happens to you, where you're well after spring ball. That is in the distant past, and this window opens up, and multiple days go by. No one enters of significance. We'll get to the full list in a little bit. When I say significance, no one who was going to be relied upon to have a big role, Mitch. And then for Keelan Marion, yesterday afternoon to put your name in, it was shocking because he was the primary offensive weapon in spring football. They used him in, dare we say, the Puka Nacua role.
Yeah, he was. And you saw signs of that last November when his workload was increasing. The ASU game, the Houston game, the bowl game, Keelan Marion was getting utilized like Puka Nacua. It's crazy to say because you think, well, are you comparing him to Puka? No, we're not saying that, but they were utilizing him in many different ways on the ground, in the receiving game. He was going to be a huge weapon. And Keelan Marion took on a massive spotlight role in spring without Chase Roberts, who was banged up and recovering from injury. It was a chance for him to shine, and he did. And in those media observation periods in spring practice, Keelan Marion was outstanding. And to suddenly lose that, you go, man, that's a big blow. So it's a bummer for BYU. And you saw the players reacting on social media. Isaiah Jada had a sad emoji. Trey Alexander, a fellow Atlanta, Georgia native, he had the Will Smith Fresh Prince of Bel-Air gif where he's looking in the room, and I think it's the series finale one. He had that reaction. Guys like Pokai Hunga were reacting. John Moa. I mean, Sione Moa, excuse me. But they were all reacting because this was a little bit of a shock that they were not expecting.
And I like that you bring up Pokai because I spoke with him in spring football, and he particularly mentioned Keelan Marion as being a pivotal leader on the offensive side of the football. And that is tough to lose at the end of the spring period, which – the spring period, it's up for debate how valuable it is, but one thing is clear. You get about 30 to 40 practices before you start playing games. A good chunk of those are in the spring, and a lot of focus was given to Keelan Marion on expanding that role, and if he does not return, because he hasn't announced a new school yet.
Yeah.
But
so there's always that there's their opportunity to come back.
And we need to get to that too, but it's not said and done that he's gone, but when someone enters at this stage, it makes you wonder, did he get a late offer? And the money's too good to pass up. And so, like, another tentacle here is, how does this affect spring ball in terms of, do you even want to showcase anybody? Because if you roll Keelan Marion out, they didn't have to play him. Yeah. They could have just said, we're going straight development, we're going straight Tay Nakua and Don McKenzie and others, and you don't even play him. Is there even any buzz? Because Matt Rule talked about this. He's like, we're done with spring games. We don't want anyone to put any tape out there. Not that there's tape in this case.
BYU's creative team putting out a hype video in spring ball about Agent Uno. And
right.
I mean, Kalani, the coaches were talking about him. If I was a coach, and look, as a media member, I don't want this to be the case, but I wouldn't highlight anyone. I wouldn't say anything about anyone because, these coaches around the country are monitoring every roster.
Yep.
And when you see someone that's an All-American kick returner, the best in the sport, now he's trending up as a receiver too. I like that. What can we do to get that guy? Oh, he's from the SEC, Atlanta, Georgia area. Maybe we could get this guy closer to home.
Yep, absolutely. And I think my biggest frustration here is not towards Keelan.
No.
Because Keelan Marion probably sees an opportunity here. And we have all been in those situations before. and it's hard to pass up. There's so much more to react to, so we'll continue reacting to this on the other side. But
It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's complete. Another touchdown.
Cougar Sports Saturday. A presentation of KSL Sports.
Left wing for three. He got it again.
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Welcome back into Cougar Sports Saturday. Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. We'll get to our interview with Tyler Batty coming up a little bit later here in the show. Former BYU defensive end preparing for the NFL draft. He will be hearing his name called most likely next week, potentially on day 3, maybe earlier, day 2. We'll see. You never know with this sort of stuff, but the NFL draft coming up next week, and we'll have coverage of that on KSLSports.com. You'll hear from Tyler Batty coming up a little bit later in this program. But transfer portal news with Keelan Marion in the portal. It's conjured up a lot of opinions and thoughts. Some other BYU football players, Matt, that are in the portal. Again, most of these names you kind of understand, and you could probably chalk up most of them to
the 105.
The cuts at, getting down to a 105 roster. Those names include Porter Small, Koa Eldridge, Weston Jones, Nason Coleman, Landon Rico, Nathan Hoke, Cale Breslin. Probably the most surprising one out of that group, Cale Breslin.
Right.
Running back out of this 2025 signee class. That was a guy that, they wanted to keep, but he was just a signee.
It's a loaded running back room, too, though. You look at that, and Pokai, Sione Moa, they're going to be here a long time.
Agree. He probably wasn't going to play, and he looked at that and was like, I'm just going to be here and away from home, and I'm going to be the fifth-string guy, probably never going to play a snap. So, look, it is what it is. Nothing surprises me anymore with the portal. BYU, but the biggest one, of course, is Keelan Marion. He goes into the portal. Do you think this is going to have a long-term impact on college football and the interest in the sport? Not just this move, but I'm talking the way that transfers happen all the time. Do you like the sport more than ever? Like, how do you feel about that?
I don't like the sport more than ever, and I think it's hard. It is hard in a sport of college football that for so long has been so driven around the logos, the institution. In a lot of cases, a lot of these fan bases are alumni-based. BYU, there's a lot of alumni that go from the Pacific Coast to the East Coast, and a lot of them graduated at BYU, and there's a big pull there. But I think I'm just thinking about my own fandom growing up as a kid, but what really endeared me to BYU football were those connections to individual players, the Luke Staleys, the Max Halls, the Dennis Pittas. They spent so much time wearing the stretch Y, and as they got older and closer to their final senior seasons, you had a real pull and a real attachment to that. And if that goes by the wayside to where every single year it's just names and there's no real love for the university, it's just about getting paid or getting seen, and you spend 1 year and you move on, I think that is going to affect the overall interest in the sport.
I do think that it seems like every time, though, the fall shows up, the games are always pretty awesome. Like, even though the player movement is trying on fans in the offseason, and it can be difficult, but I do think when you do get to the games, it is pretty sweet.
But there's still an element of, this will be Jake's third year. Chase Roberts has been here since a freshman. There's a lot of people that on this roster that are invested in BYU, and the fans are invested in them. And if that is completely gone, I think it would have an impact on Saturdays.
I do think that for BYU, I think that interest in college football could trend down potentially. It's crazy to think that, because you think that just the consumption of college football feels like at an all-time high. But I could see it scaling back a bit, because there's got to be some fatigue at some point. I do think with BYU, though, there is this kind of unique, I don't want to say exception, because you don't want to take it for granted, but I feel like BYU fans, no matter who's on that field, the connection that they have, whether it be alumni, whether it be through the church, that pulls them into BYU sporting events. Like, no matter, like, it's their faith, it's their religion. Like, that matters to BYU fans. I think that pull will always be there, regardless of who the players are. And I think there's always a little bit of excitement too for a new face potentially, but it is tough because my kids, they wanted football jerseys and basketball jerseys, and it was a little bit of a mind game to kind of think, what could be the jerseys that they need to get? Do they need, like, my boy's got Will Ferrin. I'm like, that's a pretty safe pick. Like, he's an all-timer. I think he's going to stay around. Then, Glasker, that was like, like, does he go to the NFL? But, it's tough. Like, it can be hard on fans, but I do think when you do get to the games, though, it is pretty rewarding.
Welcome back in. Happy Easter weekend to all of you out there. Hope you have a wonderful start to a significant and special weekend on this Saturday. Weather's not quite what I would like. I'd like it to be a little warmer, but nevertheless, it's nice to have Easter weekend here to spend a little extra time with our families. Anything else to add on the portal? Let me throw this question your way.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up portal talk here. Do you draw any comparisons between Cody Epps and Keelan Marion from a couple years ago? And are there any lessons learned from the Cody Epps situation that you think should be applied here?
It's a good question. I feel like I feel like they're the same because you do have time to adjust. Like, there's still time in this transfer portal window. It goes till next Friday. More players are going to go in.
It is the same in the sense that both played in spring ball and then went.
I feel like maybe it could be a lesson because Cody was never the same guy. Like, he just wasn't.
No.
Injuries obviously played a role in 2023 and 2024, but even when he was healthy in 2024 or 2023, like, he was like banged. It wasn't healthy, but like he was banged up and he wasn't playing. He wasn't available really. And in 2024, there just wasn't much of a role for him. He was a week one starter, and that kind of faded. And then he got hurt and was not heard from the rest of the way, and that opened the door for Keelan Marion. Maybe it serves as a case of maybe just empower your current guys and just look them in the eye and say, we believe in you. Like,
if you're here, we believe in you.
We're gonna get a guy because of numbers, but we believe in you. We recruited you out of high school for a reason. We're gonna turn to you. Like, it's time. Like, they talk so much about depth. Well, just lean into it then. Like, lean into your depth and go have success with those guys. But I do think you need to probably add maybe 2 guys at wide receiver just as an insurance to make sure.
Injury
because Chase is coming back from injury and it's a shoulder and you want to have that kind of insurance net there and put together some resources. And look, it'd be great if Keelan came back. It'd be awesome. But it does just change the dynamic a little bit. It just changes the vibes, if you will, the feelings when a guy dips in and then comes back, especially in the spring window, to your point about going through spring practices. But I think I would just, look those current wide receivers in the room and just say, like, we believe in you. Like, we're going to lean into you guys, but be transparent that there are going to be new faces joining the group in the summer.
For me, if there is a lesson to be taken from what happened with Cody Epps, is that Cody Epps situation, it was just never felt real after that. It felt forced. It felt a little weird. It's like, we're happy to have you back, but really we're still kind of mad because the 11th hour entry was frustrating for coaches and for players. And I think, if someone wants to do this and leverage maybe the opportunity to get more money, we haven't heard from Keelan, so we don't know we don't know what the true intention is. But considering the flow of cash in the sport, it's easy to connect the dots and say maybe someone offered him a significant raise.
And he's the best kick returner in college football. Like, last year, that Utah win, you don't win that game. We were talking before the show. You don't win that game without that kick return touchdown by Keelan Marion. It was a quick response to get BYU back in the mix. How valuable are those 2 touchdown kick returns for a team that, you can make an argument got BYU to 11 wins? If you don't have those, it's a big difference between 9 wins and 11.
Yes.
Significant, and it impacts bonuses for coaches. So how valuable is that to a team. He goes to any team in the country, he's going to be the starting kick returner. He's going to be the main guy. That's going to be expected to get you at least 2 touchdowns. And that's a luxury where very few people in the sport can do that. So, that's at a premium. And when you've got that elite of a service and a talent, that's going to create a market for you. And how that comes to be, who knows how that, how you get even wind of what your market is like before you hit the portal, or if he doesn't know. I don't know. We haven't heard from Keelan himself, and I think that's a fair point to always bring up, because and the Rob Wright situation, I think, highlighted that too. It's like, we got to hear from them, because on the surface you just look at it and say cash grab, money. Right. Yep. That's the only reason. Like, I want to hear from them. Like, see what the reason is. I don't know. Did he like his dynamic? His living at BYU? I don't know. Like, I don't know if it seemed like it was all going great. He's been there the past 2 years. He was emerging as a leader. It seemed like everything was right, but I'm not going to claim to know that I'm next to the man every single day. I don't know. So I think that's these sort of situations, you kind of always be like, okay, like you're going to have the player movement, but at the same time, BYU's going to go get their guys that they need to fill that gap if needed, or turn to the guys that are currently in the program to be elevated to bigger roles. LaMason Waller, Dominique McKenzie, freshmen guys, take a step forward this summer. This is a big opportunity for you to really make a leap forward, and all the other guys that are young underclassmen, time to step up for BYU in that receiver room.
And despite all that, I think if you want to do that, then I think you just say thanks for the 2 years, and we're not going to be matching any offers. We're not going to be re-recruiting you. If this is what you want to do, you're out the door. Like, I think it's fair in some cases to draw comparisons to the real world. And I think in a corporate America, one of the easiest and best ways to increase your earnings potential is to have a competing offer, to shop your value, to go out to the market and see if another company will pay you more. And in some cases, you don't want to leave, and you take that offer back to your current employer, and they want to match. It just, again, it's the way you handle it and the timing of these things that I think goes a long way. And, if you're working as a finance guy, or if you're a tax accountant and you want to leverage your company at the busiest point of tax season, that hits a little differently than someone's recruiting me in the off season and I really want to stay here. Can you match this? That's different. And I think that applies to this situation on why maybe you just say, hey, if that's what you want to do, great, because we thought you were in and we highlighted you in spring and we got you ready. And then so I think just the lesson to be learned here is players can do what they want, and I don't fault them at all for potentially shopping his market value and getting a raise. Good for you. But sometimes if you want to open other doors, that means you're closing some doors as well. And to your point, maybe just say, this door's now closed. We're going ahead with the young guys.
Yeah, I'll be very interested to follow this movement for Keelan, because he is a talented football player. And I think, when it comes to adding guys in the portal from the coaching staff perspective, I always wonder, how does that impact the locker room? I don't think enough is talked about how it impacts the locker room when a projected key guy that was part of spring and felt like a top performer, projected to be a top performer this season. How does that impact the locker room? And it makes me wonder too, should the coaches be more aggressive on being willing to just add guys? And I bring this up because when I saw Nico Iamaleava, when I saw him in the portal, I was like, why not kick the tires on that? I say that because BYU once offered him out of high school.
Right.
And look, and I know the story that's been reported, and it's mixed, reporting his Colin Coward saying that it was about the scheme, and then, it's believed that it was about money initially. Who knows? But it's like, I think the thing you would have said in April or this time of the year is like, you don't do that to add a guy like him because it hurts the locker room. Well, this also hurts maybe a little bit too.
Right.
Either Why way, not? It's hurting, if you're a coach, just, like, I'm going to just add talented football players, and everyone has to be on notice and be ready. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just, to me, that's got to be the more, and that's where it gets a little bit touchy with the portal, because you don't want it to be like that. You want it to be like, we believe in the guys here that we recruited as high school. You want to romanticize kind of that old school way of roster building, but whenever you get the chance to just get quality talent, man, you're getting to the point where, hey, you got to think there's going to be a guy that might blindside me, and this guy just bails. And we want to make sure to get our numbers correctly, because when the years go by, like we're all talking about in the moment, But when the years go by and 2025 season, if it's only 8-4, people will forget that nuance in April where you lost a key wide receiver. You'll just say you were 8-4 and didn't live up to expectations. Well, maybe if you added these pieces in advance, maybe you prevented that, so you're not going to have that situation. This is a type of loss with Marion that could cost you a game or two. I do believe that. So this is a team where I came out of spring feeling like I don't feel like they're the favorite in the Big 12 anymore coming out of spring.
Right.
I still think they're a very good football team, but I want to see more from this group, and maybe this can rally the team and look everyone in the eye, and that's where you hope the player leaders on this team really kind of rally the troops, say, hey, is everyone on board? Are you guys ready to go chase this Big 12 title, or is it just kind of a case of this is what the landscape is, and we got to take care of our business? I don't know.
I will say some of my favorite BYU offenses of yesteryear, Mitch, have been heavily focused on 2 or 3 players, and you just feed them the rock, and maybe that becomes the plan. Maybe it's Chase, you're getting 100 targets. Carson Ryan,
great.
We're giving you 60. LJ and Sione and Pokai, you guys are toting the rock, and it's just it's 4 or 5 guys, and we're feeding you the ball, and
I'm okay with that.
Me too, because that's worked well in the past for think about the Pitta, Cauley, Unga trio. That was just fine, even though they forced the ball to those 3 frequently. Taking the break, news, traffic, and weather up next. On the other side, we'll get to that conversation Mitch had with Tyler Batty.
It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's complete and another touchdown!
Cougar Sports Saturday. A presentation of KSL Sports.
Left wing for 3. He got it again!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Welcome back in to Cougar Sports Saturday, hour number 2. KSL News Time, 1:07 p.m. Mitch Harper, Matt Baiamonte with you on this Saturday, April 19th, and it's 1 week away from the NFL Draft in Lambeau Field. Looking forward to it, Matt. That's going to be a lot of fun, the NFL Draft. It's always one of the best sporting events in the year to get that football fix in the springtime. And the guy that's got the best chance out of BYU to be selected in the NFL Draft is this man, defensive end, former BYU defensive end, Tyler Batty. And I caught up with him this week and asked him how his training has been preparing for the NFL Draft.
It's been good. It's been good. It was a little hectic, being out of the Alamo Bowl in Texas, pretty much flying home, repacking, and then flying immediately to Florida to go train for the Combine. So it's been an adventure. Florida treated us great, getting ready for the Combine. Combine itself was awesome. Same with the East-West game. And now been in Utah for a little over a month and just staying ready, waiting for the draft, see what's happening.
What does staying ready look like?
The usual. I mean, nothing too crazy, just keeping all the skills sharp, just kind of getting ready to play football again. So making sure the body's in shape, staying healthy, and staying sharp mentally, and be ready to go into a camp and learn a new playbook and, develop a little bit more there.
You're one of the great DNs in BYU football history. I think my intro was not do justice to you because you look at the stats in the 21st century, you're one of the all-time greats. What do you feel about, thank you, what you accomplished in this final season? Not you, but this whole BYU program, but you in particular, and the legacy that you left at BYU. Do you kind of take a step back and look at what you accomplished in your time at BYU?
Yeah, absolutely. During my time at BYU, we had a lot of success, and we also had some really big struggles. Look at 2020 and 21, where we had incredible teams and we had a lot of success. And then you look at 22 and 23, where we still had incredible teams, but we struggled a lot. And then you look at 2024 and, going 11-2 to cap off, my career at BYU is definitely something I take pride in. And, what was one of the reasons why I came back for another year was to make sure that we went out on the right note. And so super grateful for all the teammates and coaches that I've been able to interact with, during my time at BYU. But, just grateful.
Is there anything that you wish that you could have done at BYU that you did miss out on? Or I hate to kind of dwell on that side, but is there something that you feel like you did miss out at BYU?
Yeah, absolutely. I think sacks is one. I would have liked to see those total sack numbers and sacks per season go up.
But your quarterback hurries and pressures, went up in the last 2 years, it felt like.
Yeah, it did. It definitely did. And I think you look at, over a 5-year span or a 4-year span of, pressures and hurries, I'd probably be up top with a lot of guys. But, I would have liked to finish some more of those. And then, what really stings is that Big 12 championship. You know what I mean? We got the opportunity to get back into a conference and compete for a conference title. And, 2 rough games and we dropped the ball and we weren't able to accomplish that. But, other than that, I think we did really well.
It's kind of fun to have this conversation with you, Tyler, because I think also back to, I remember having a phone call with you in the fall of 2016 when you committed to BYU.
I remember this conversation distinctly. I was downstairs in my parents' house. And I was like, who is this Mitch Harper guy?
But it's been, and I bring that up just because, BYU athletes, they take sometimes the road less traveled in the world of athletics. And you just kind of look at this and think, man, like now this is the next chapter, what you've been aspiring for. And did you, throughout these past 8 or 9 years, did you ever think, hey, the NFL really could be a chance? When did you start to think the NFL could be an opportunity for you?
I think that goes all the way back to high school, and I think that was the initial goal for me. It was always the NFL. Some guys dream of playing college football. To be honest, that was never really my dream. I was like, I want to play in the pros, man. Like, I want to college football, cool. Like, that'll be a great experience, and it has been. But it's been that stepping stone, and excited for this next chapter because it's been a long time coming. Yeah.
What's been the most rewarding aspect of this journey, and maybe some of the I don't want to say hurdles, but some adversity that you faced personally that's really shaped you as a person and a player?
That's a great question. I think from essentially getting benched my first game of college football when we were at Navy, a little known story of like the morning of the game being on the depth chart, and then when we left to the game, we did our last look and my name was no longer on the depth chart. You know what I mean? And so from the get-go, I was just like, all right, it's time to go to work. Going through some different position changes, if you will, and just learning some different techniques and trying to develop as a football player, that was also tough, and not being quite where I wanted to be, you know what I mean? And with the success that I would have liked to have, switching coordinators, was a little bit of a challenge as well, and position coaches a few times. And so there was definitely some bumps along the way, but I'm extremely grateful for, how things have ended because it's led to this point, and so grateful for how it shaped me. Are
you happy that you went wire to wire at BYU? And I asked that because I think your story will be far less common going forward in the NIL, rev share era where guys are going to move around a lot more. Are you happy that you went wire to wire at BYU?
Absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't have rather played anywhere else in the country. I wouldn't have rather played under any other head coach. And that's, for me, that's what it came down to, is when Kalani and Tuyaki sat me down however many years ago that was, and was like, hey, we want you at BYU, and we don't just want you, we want you here, and we want you to contribute, and this is the vision that we have for BYU football. And so being able to stand arm in arm with Kalani and work towards that vision of what he had for what BYU football could be and what it's becoming, almost a decade ago, like it's 8 years ago, it's been a long time. No regrets there, absolutely. Like you said, it will become increasingly uncommon for guys to play all 4 or all 5 years at a single school, and so I'm extremely grateful that I was able to.
What were your favorite memories at BYU?
Of course, beating Utah. Yeah, shout out you Utah fans. Never lost to Utah in 5 years.
2021, you bring that up, and I love just kind of, me, I love getting deep in the weeds and reflecting on stuff. And I remember you came into the KSL News Radio studio. You're the first BYU athlete, you and Riggs, that had the NIL deal. So you can always hold that card too. The bomb shot deal, first NIL athlete. You came into the studio and talked about that. And I remember in the break, you're like, Mitch, we're going to hammer Utah. And I go, hammer them. I remember there's just a confidence. And I just felt like that confidence carried over months later in September of that game in 2021, and really that moment combined with the Big 12 invite, BYU winning that game, it's been a different BYU since that time.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I think, there was a decade of suffering that led to it. But, again, we had the right guys at the right time, and guys were determined to change the tide of things. And so it was fun to be part of that.
When you talk about memories, too, how much – yes, I think a lot of people, when they get that question asked, I think a lot of fans will listen and say they want to hear the plays, the moments, but how much of those memorable moments in your BYU time are going to be in the SAB locker room and just being with the guys? The guys, and how much is that kind of the stuff that percolates the most?
Oh, 150%. Just because, you spend so much time together, and it's really the only time. It's like high school football. You know what I mean? I actually made an impromptu visit to Payson High the other day and was talking to some of the guys there, and it was just like, hey, enjoy this time, because this time that you get to play with your buddies doesn't last forever. And it's the same thing in college. It's crazy because of the amount of time that we spend together, traveling together, rooming with guys, and then they move on and you won't see them for a couple of years, you know what I mean? And it's this really weird situation, but I cherish every single memory I have with my teammates, and just whether it was the great practices or the crappy practices or the lifts or the meetings or the travel or, whatever it was, or floating the river together. Like, it's just those memories, of course, and like the relationships forged, I'll always appreciate those.
How excited are you to form the next chapter in these relationships in the NFL? What's this process been like?
I'm stoked. It's been a very interesting process. It's been rather drawn out. NFL teams are extremely busy from the end of their season until the draft. For a draftee, it gets a little long. You know what I mean? It's a lot of waiting. You go and you perform and you wait, and then you go and you perform and you wait, and then, like I said before, it's just staying ready. And so, it's been a great process. I have enjoyed it. It's been long. And I'm ready to see things come to an end and figure out where we're going, and what's going to be happening.
What was the combine experience like? You put up some really strong numbers. What was your assessment of the numbers and then the experience overall?
Yeah, the numbers were good. I would say, in light of what the combine is, I was pleased. I would have liked to, of course, like any of us.
Sure.
If you have a competitor spirit, like, you're going to want to have done better. But in retrospect, I was happy with how I performed at the combine and what I was able to do there, and just the impact I was able to have, and really enjoyed the process with all the guys. We had a great group of guys at the combine, just incredible guys from all across the country, all the different schools. There was already, the beginning of, you can kind of feel that brotherhood at the next level of, at least, the defensive end position, the guys I was hanging out with.
Yeah.
Guys were great. We had a great group. We all really enjoyed the week. Everyone brought great energy. And so I really enjoyed that week at the combine.
A lot of people in my role in the media, I think, look at the combine and think players always get asked crazy questions by teams. Were there any crazy questions thrown at you, like, what do you like? I remember something asked about, like, music. Was there something crazy asked at all at that?
Nothing really. The teams a lot. What's the worst thing you've ever done? But let's be honest, they already know the answer. they've done their research. They already know the answer.
Nothing like, how do you react to the song "Ah Patet Patet"?
Nothing like that.
Okay.
It's like, why should we draft you? And how do you see? Tell us about yourself. It's a lot of that. It's a lot of repetitive stuff. So no, I didn't get anything too crazy.
What are you looking to achieve? The NFL obviously get us a chance at a spot, but what are your goals as a future NFL player?
Yeah, go play, man.
Yeah.
If football's on the table, I'm trying to play and I'm trying to be on the field. And so for me, that's I see that I'm very capable of that at the next level, and want to go in and contribute to a team and contribute to a winning culture on and off the field, and help a team win games in whatever role that I can. And so really just looking forward to that, and wanting to go play some football.
Is it mentally taxing at all trying to keep track of mock drafts? And I ask that too because on the basketball side, Yegor Demin, he declared for the NBA, and he's like, my parents are checking all these mock drafts to see my decision. Are you mock draft watching or just trying to tune all that noise out?
It's going to happen one way or another. There's so many variables within the draft that you can't. Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck to anyone trying to predict the draft because it's not. There's too many variables.
Yeah.
I mean, half these teams don't even know who they're going to draft until the moment comes around, and so just trying to enjoy the process and wait in to find out when and where.
I think it's an underrated aspect too to your profile as a draftee. Is you played obviously defense end, but also special teams. You were a valuable asset on punt team at BYU. Like, has that been something brought up in this process too with teams? Like, hey, because with 53 spots, you got to be able to do a lot of different things.
Yeah, absolutely, it has been. And again, like I've been more than happy to play special teams. I kind of wish the old kickoff was still around. I liked going down and headhunting on kickoff. I can't do that as much anymore. But yeah, absolutely, it's been part of the conversation. And yeah, I enjoy special teams, so more than happy to jump in.
How do you feel BYU prepared you for the NFL?
That's a great question. I think teaching the game of football and me learning the game of football was a crucial part of my development at BYU. Coming from out of Payson High School, I didn't know much about football. Really, it's like an onion. There's layers to it, right? And so coming out of Payson, I was like on the very external layer of like, okay,
it's a great Shrek
tackle, tackle the guy with the ball, right?
Yeah.
And so getting to BYU, understanding coverages and schemes and fronts and blitz structures and how you manage all that on defense, plus learning what offenses do and why they do what they do and based out of certain formations or personnel groupings and understanding the game of football at a deeper level, I think has allowed me an extra boost, right, in this pre-draft process because you got to be able to talk football, right? And it's a lot easier to convey ideas when you have the same base knowledge versus maybe not understanding football as fully. And so I think that I think skills development, of course, and overall physical development, but I think that's the biggest aspect of football where I improved at BYU. That was the most important to me was understanding the game.
It really feels like you're a guy that loves the game too.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said before, like I've loved the game since day one. Yeah. I just didn't know half of what I know about it now. And so it's made it a lot better.
How much do you enjoy too just diving into a new scheme, a new playbook coming up, like wherever that's going to be? How excited are you for that?
Excited. I've picked a couple different colleges' brains, a couple different coaches' brains on their scheme. Okay, what do you guys run? How do you guys install things? Is there a ton of different plays? Is it super, and that's something also that I would say was unique to BYU is we had a rather dense playbook defensively of what we were able to do, and it was very in-depth, and there was a lot of nuances to it, and so...
You guys unloaded in that Colorado game. Like that opening stretch, Jay Hill's talked about it a little bit, but what was it, like 13, 15 different I mean, it was... A lot. You guys unloaded the playbook in that one.
Yeah, it's been fun talking with a lot of different coaches in the NFL, and they're just like, you guys ran a lot of different exotic pressures. And I was like, we did, and it was a blast, right? And so, like I said, having that knowledge has been a huge advantage. And talking with the coaches and just being able to break down scheme in that way has been great.
How helpful is it going to be navigating this new uncertain world with your wife, Elena, and just that? What's that going to mean for you and to navigate this? I mean, because most guys go on this as single guys. Like, how is that going to be helpful too?
It's going to be awesome. Elena's a great support system. She has been my entire college career, and so super grateful for her and, of course, what she brings to the table in our relationship. And we're both just super stoked to take the next step into the NFL and kind of see what the future holds for us. There's a lot of unknowns, but we're excited.
Well, I'm excited for you, Tyler, and I think all of Cougar Nation and I think people locally too. I mean, like, you think about getting a local homegrown guy, not someone that transferred in from another state. Like, you're a homegrown Utah product. I think this whole state, hopefully, is going to be rallying around you. Was there any team growing up as a kid that you maybe dreamed of? I know that's kind of touchy because you're probably open all 32, but was there anyone that you were like, man, that'd be pretty cool?
Funny enough, I think like the first team that I attached myself to way back when was like the Colts. Because I think I had a trading card of one of their punters in like the early 2000s.
Was it Pat McAfee?
Probably was, honestly. It probably was. And I just thought it was cool. I had a couple buddies that were Green Bay Packers fans, so there was that. And then really, once I never really had a team though until I kind of got into junior high school, and one of my buddies, he was a big Cowboys fan. And so at that point, I just kind of joined on the Cowboys bandwagon and rode with it. But like you said, excited for whoever. I just super excited for the opportunity to play in the NFL for whoever. And so just looking forward to making a dream come true.
Well, we're all looking forward to it, Tyler. It's been an honor covering your time at BYU. Pro's pro. I mean, just speaking from my experience covering your time, whether win or lose, you were always willing to face the music, and I think that's something that's probably going to be noteworthy in the NFL, where you're going to be in open locker rooms. And so I always appreciate the time to be candid and honest and always face the music during tough times, and been really a great representative of really what a BYU football player is. I think when people look at the program at large historically, they should look at the definition of a BYU football athlete as someone like yourself, and not just saying that because I've gotten to know you, but really as someone who's followed the program for a long time. I think you embody that as well as anyone.
Well, thank you, Mitch. I appreciate that.
Tyler, it's been an honor, and best of luck in your travels in the NFL, and we'll be watching, man.
Sweet. Thank you.
It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's complete. Another touchdown!
Cougar Sports Saturday. A presentation of KSL Sports.
Left wing for three. He got it again!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Welcome back in. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your Easter weekend. I'm going to be going to that King of Kings movie tonight with my kids. I'm looking forward to that. That looks good.
My daughter went with her grandma.
What'd she think?
She loved it. I got to go see it. So I hear good things.
I've heard good things too. I'm looking forward to it. That'll be kind of fun to have a.
My boys went to Minecraft Chicken Jockey.
Tell me they didn't destroy theater property though in the process, did they?
I told them to not, but no guarantees. I can confirm that there was no chicken as we saw that video go live. I think that went viral. The KSL News radio team got an interview with the guy, the kid that had the chicken down in Provo, which is funny too. The day after Legends Grill, the players had at one of their food stations, they had chicken, and it was called Chicken Jockey by the cooks. So they were playing into the theme.
I like that. I like that.
Have some fun with that.
That's good. Let's have some fun with this, Mitch.
The Cougar Sports Saturday Top 5. Top 5. Mitch and Matt clash in a weekly battle of BYU sports knowledge. Here's the Top 5.
We do this every week, most weeks at least, where myself, Matt Baiamonte, and Mitch Harper, we grew up in the state of Utah. In fact, we had eerily similar childhoods.
Yes.
Rooted for the Lakers.
Yes. We're gonna
played a lot
today.
of NCAA football. Were you manually entering players' names back in the PS?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah, see? We did a lot of the same things.
Yes.
And we were very entrenched in the world of BYU. So we compete. And our host, producer Nate Slack, he's also very entrenched in the world of BYU. He finds some sort of list. Could be statistical, could be preferential. And me and Mitch, we take turns guessing this list. Nothing in front of us, no phones, no computers. It's just right off the top of our head, and first to 3 gets the win. And with that being said, let's bring in producer Nate. You having a good week, man?
It's been a great week, except for the snow yesterday. Did you guys get any snow at your houses?
Yes.
Because we got about 4 inches at my house.
4?
Wow.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
had
get
to
any
brush off
snow
my car and everything.
in Murray. No snow, but when I was in Provo, there was some snow coming down early afternoon. So, didn't experience any snow, though, in Murray, but I did not like that weather. I want to see some great spring weather right now.
Not good at all.
No, not
Did you enjoy the softball win last night?
The softball one was fantastic.
Did you watch it?
I did. So it was funny because I watched the game on Thursday night too when they came back.
I didn't know
And
you were such a big softball guy.
He used to work
it's
with the
BYU
team.
softball. I used to work with the team.
I know,
So,
but you're watching all the games?
not all the games, but like I don't like Utah, so I like
Yeah.
to watch those rivalry games.
I'm with you. Like BYU and Utah on
It's
the
must
media
see.
beat. Like softball, I'm not day in day out writing, but if it's BYU Utah, man, like I'm tuning in.
Especially
It is
when
sport.
Utah not good,
Yeah.
but probably should have won both of those
Yeah.
first two games and
For
blew
sure.
them both.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't watched BYU softball, I think college softball is so much better than college baseball.
Why would
Well
you say
said.
that?
Well, they have things to prevent blowouts where you're watching position pitchers. So if you're up by 8 runs after 5 innings, game's over. It's done. The field is just a lot more compact,
More tight.
and so it's a lot faster. I like it a lot more. You can even have a starting pitcher struggle. They go out of the game. They come back in the game later to pitch. I just like the substitutions. I like the quickness. I think it's a lot more entertaining.
Hopefully this is going to be entertaining. This list, you've had some challenging ones in recent weeks for us. So what do you got on deck this week?
This one's not going to be as bad, but it is going to be combining football and basketball.
Okay.
We've been talking a lot about the success over the last 6 months between the football program and basketball program. And this year was the 6th time ever that BYU finished the football and basketball season appearing in the final AP polls. So the top 5 is going to be the last 5 times, or the other 5 times where BYU football and basketball were ranked to end the season.
Okay.
So just name for example, this year would have been 2024, 2025.
So we need
just in
the
those 5
hyphen
years.
because it
the
starts in the
hyphen.
fall and then ends in the spring.
Yes.
Right.
Gotcha.
So that might trip you guys up a little bit, but we'll be starting with Mitch.
And this year is removed, right?
This year is
Okay.
removed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go with 2020, 2021.
There we go. 2020, 2021. Football ended number 11. Basketball 23. I feel like basketball probably could have been a little bit higher, but I think the loss to UCLA in the tournament kind of dropped them down a little bit.
And they snuck in. I think that was the only appearance that basketball had in the poll, was the final poll that season, because that was a big talking point, for Mark Pope to get into that thing at the end there for that season. But yeah, that was I always point to this, and I think as time has gone by, BYU was one of the biggest beneficiaries from COVID. And look, they faced hurdles too, but playing a 12-game football season, that it had carryover the following year in football. Ever since COVID happened, it feels like BYU sports have taken off to heights that we didn't see. The Big 12 happened. You can point to COVID as one of the reasons why Texas and Oklahoma, after one cycle of having small checks because of COVID, they wanted to go to a bigger league with more paydays, and BYU benefited from that. So I always point to COVID as something that was a big thing for BYU sports, and that academic year within that was an example of that.
What about the year that just finished, 2024, 2025?
I just confirmed before it's off the table.
Yes, but not on the list.
Yes.
All
So
right, fair.
let's go with 2006, 2007.
Very nice.
Yeah, those mid-2000 years get a little forgotten, but the 2006 football season, obviously the 11-2 season, that season gets really slept on because the only 2 losses were a last-second field goal to Arizona on the road, and
Yep.
then a double overtime loss to Boston College and Matt Ryan. They could have been undefeated that year.
I think it was Chris Spillman who said, "It's the best 1-2 football team in the country." And I was like, that's right. I think Brian Keel had some passionate speech after that game. But, yeah, that was a great football team. 2006 BYU football, one of the best football teams I've ever watched in my lifetime, I think.
Yeah, that team was spectacular.
Yeah.
It was, and even with John Beck, fighting through the ankle sprains and still producing the way that he did, I thought was noteworthy. He missed a game that year, right? I think Jason Beck came in and started one game at home.
Yeah.
Early in the
Against
year.
Utah
and-
State.
Yep, and just found a way. And it's weird now that Jason Beck's coaching on the other side of the rivalry.
Yeah, Harleen with the Utah catch. I mean, that's an all-timer. That team was, you might make a case, the best team under Bronco, maybe maybe I don't want to give up any spoilers because it could be other answers, but that was a dang good BYU football team, that's for sure. Basketball, too. I mean, I think they had Trent Playstead, Lee Kumar, now women's basketball coach.
Did they have Bigelow on that squad, too?
No, that was the second year with Dave Rose.
Okay.
They had that first season. They got to the NIT. Why should I be saying all this? Like, just continue. It was a great basketball team.
You know what? It's actually back to you because you stole.
I know.
You stole Matt.
Okay.
So this is a chance for a sweep.
Let's try 07-08. Okay. I wasn't as confident on the basketball side. Football was ranked in 07, but 07-08 basketball, I think they were repeat champs. I can't remember on that one.
I think it was because that was the Jonathan Tavernari's team.
Yes.
And they were always winning conference championships.
Yes.
But football, or I don't think they ended the season ranked.
Yeah.
Let's go 1996, 1997.
Oh, Matt, that's 1 in 25 basketball.
Was that the 1 in 25?
Yes.
Oh,
That was the worst team in the country.
yikes. I thought that was a year prior. Oh.
Yeah. 96, 97 was the. And look, I don't want to talk smack on that group. They still got to win over an in-state rival. They took down Utah State as the one win, but yeah, that was look. It's one of my badges of honor as a BYU guy. I sat at the Cougar Classic, 3,000 fans at the Marriott Center for a game, regular season game. I'm not even kidding you. I still have the ticket stub.
Oh, man.
Cougar Classic back when MTEs used to be just BYU playing in Provo. 3,000 fans, and it was, I think, the last days of Roger Reed.
Yikes.
And, yeah, I mean, that was dark times, but football made up for that. That glow from the Cotton Bowl, Omar Morgan,
Yes.
that team, that was great, but they finished number 5, but basketball was they were like the worst team in college basketball that season. Okay, so let's reset here. We got the years where both football and men's basketball finished ranked in the AP Top 25.
Yep.
What do we have as the list?
Number 1 is off the list, 2020 and 2021.
Okay.
Number 3 is off the list, 2006, 2007. There's 3 answers left.
Okay, so there's one in between 07 and 2021. Let's go with 2009, 2010.
Was that
2010 was
that was
the Jake
Heaps year,
and
right? Yeah.
Lose at Air Force, lose at Utah State.
2009 was BYU football.
That's right. Yeah, it was BYU football. No, 2009 was good. 2010 they didn't finish the season ranked.
Basketball didn't finish ranked.
Basketball didn't finish ranked. Football did because that was also the Oregon State bowl game and they rolled there.
Though crazy wind in Vegas, it was like
Yeah.
40-mile-per-hour winds, and they brought out the royal blue jerseys again, and that Oregon State team was one play away from going to the Rose
Jaquiz
Bowl.
Rogers and
Yes, that was a very electric bowl game, honestly. But anyway,
What about 20? Let's try 2021, 2022.
No, good guess. Football or basketball did not end the season.
yeah.
Was that the Matt Harms year?
That was the year they got to number 12. They lost to UVU.
Gotcha.
Barcelo was rocking and rolling. He was a stud, 6-0. They crushed Oregon, and then they lost at Santa Clara, and then they had that 3-game skid, and it really went sideways after that in the WCC. Let's see, which season am I missing here? How about this? Let's go 2011, 2012.
That would have been football missing out, I believe, right?
I believe so. 2011 football was rough. We had that 54-10
But
game.
did it? I'm thinking of maybe the coaches poll. The coaches poll they snuck in at 25, but the AP because the coaches poll had USC banned, so they didn't get into the poll. Anyway,
I think you're right.
okay.
2001, 2002.
It's a good guess. No.
Yeah, 02 basketball. They finished in the NIT. They played like UC Irvine, I think. And then they lost to Memphis and DeJuan Wagner. Now his kid's playing. Yeah. Let's see here. I'm trying to think. Gosh, again, the list is combined
Season, BYU football and basketball ending the season in the top 25. And you guys are focused on these 2000 teams. We can also go back in time a little bit.
How about this? 2000. No. Let's go with. How about this? Let's go 88, 89.
There's one really easy one. I mean, I think there's 2 easy ones, but one especially. I think you guys are overthinking.
Is this too far back? 80-81? Okay.
80-81. We talked about this one probably being the best 6-month stretch in BYU history.
Yeah. Gosh, dang it.
Yeah, SMU game in the Miracle Bowl, and then 81, obviously,
Ainge.
Danny Ainge in
Right,
the Elite
yeah.
Eight.
I thought that would have been too far back.
I thought the same thing.
But there's only 5 other seasons. So that's one of the 5 seasons where BYU ended ranked in football and
You're
basketball.
right. Wow. I'm just not picking up on some of these nuggets that Nate has been dropping along
Who's
the
next?
path.
We're back to Matt.
Well, sticking with the theme of great years, what about 90-91?
Good guess.
How about 84-85? I don't think basketball did much, but yeah, no. I think they were like 15-13 that year. Yeah.
What about 89-90?
Okay. I feel like we're missing one in the Bronco and Dave Rose years.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, we are. I'm going to go with 20. Let's go with 2009, 2010. I already said that one. Sorry. Go on.
We're missing a Rose. You can see every single
and both
team.
years have been said. They just haven't been said together.
Huh?
So the front end and the back end have both been used.
2008, 2009.
Yeah, 2008, obviously starting the season.
That team, football, stayed ranked after getting their doors
Yeah.
blown off by Utah.
They ended 25.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I kind of wrote that off because it just
Yeah. And
ended so poorly.
heading into the Utah game, BYU only had one loss. It was the TCU game.
Was that also the year, the bowl game, where they blocked a field goal?
That was UCLA.
Against
That was
UCLA.
17-16 with Mana Maliuna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They lost to Arizona. It was the third straight year they played Arizona. Willie Tuitama and the Wildcats, they beat them in Vegas. And Arizona was way more motivated. BYU was kind of checked out on that one, I remember. Which is a shame because that was the last game of Austin Collie as a BYU Cougar, and they just kind of slept walk on that one. Dang it. Let's go with I blew that one. How about this? Let's go 93-94. No, actually, I talked myself out of that. Buzzer it. That was a 6-6 football team. Yep. Bad defense that year.
Let's go with, what about 83-84?
That's a good pull. Let's go with, how about 85-86?
You guys are in the right ballpark.
All right.
86-87?
Not that right.
87-88.
Oh, my goodness.
A
Okay.
lot of buzzers.
It's a little older.
Great aesthetic on the air right now. Just
What about 92-93? I don't have a sense.
92 was the BYU Kansas. They couldn't beat Kansas even then in football.
Jeez.
The Aloha Bowl, Tom Young.
The quarterback of this football team has his jersey retired, so that kind of narrows it down. I mean, there's still a bunch of quarterbacks' jerseys retired, but
Let's go with 77-78.
82-83?
83-84.
Matt said that one.
Oh, yeah, he did.
91-92?
We've said that.
Okay. We're all over the place.
We're getting colder again.
Okay, let's go with, how about 75-76?
His jersey was retired on the Wisconsin game in 2017.
Okay.
So that's a huge clue.
Yep. That sort of tidbit is what I need. That sort of nugget. I'm telling you.
There were 2 quarterbacks' jerseys retired there, but
Yeah. That's what I needed to hear.
Let's go with, I feel like I can see that 79-80.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, yes!
I was going to say that. Mark Wilson. Gosh dang it.
incredible.
And Danny Ainge.
Yep. Football end of the season.
Son of a
13.
gun, I had a 2-0 lead.
Basketball 12.
Matt just pulled a Keba Keita and blocked me in Hilton Coliseum.
Oh, man, that was a desperation.
He's down 3-1. LeBron! Block! Kebakita! Gosh, he just did that to me. Unbelievable. And then I get the Wisconsin tidbit. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is in the bag. I got it. 2017, Mark Wilson's holding up the sign, the jersey.
Oh, man.
Because we already know Bosco's not it because we already hammered out 84, 85, 85, 86. That's not it. I got this thing in the bag. See you later, Matt. You're taking the big L, baby. Then what? 79, 80?
Oh, my gosh.
All right.
I don't even feel good about that win, though, because I had a gajillion
Incredible
buzzers.
comeback, though.
Yeah.
Incredible.
You don't feel good, but you don't feel bad. So
Fair.
Down 0-2. Storm back. All right, we got to take a break. Good list, Nate. On the other side, we'll get some Cougar Tales next, so stay in the studio. It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
Not much time for Cougar Tales here. We're moving into the 150 segment. But, Nate, what do you have for us in the world of the other sports that don't get maybe as much attention as they deserve?
we've already kind of touched on softball, but baseball has also been playing Arizona. Arizona is ranked number 22. They won the first game, lost the second. They're tied at 5-5 right now in the seventh inning. It's been kind of an up and down year for baseball, but they're playing okay right now. And then I just want to get you guys' thoughts on Lee Corso retiring. He's set to retire. He's going to put on the headgear one more time for week 0, and then I'll be hanging it up. But just kind of your overall thoughts on Lee Corso's last season.
End of an era, and I'm glad that he gets a chance to have a send-off, and because he has been a key piece to college football. I mean, There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. But I am ready for the next era. Lee's not the same.
Yes.
Ever since his stroke, I think he's had moments where he's been himself, but in a lot of ways, I just have found myself, kind of feeling like Herbie, where it's like, just help him get through this segment. And so, he's old. He's 90 years old. So I think one more time, it's going to be at Ohio State, Texas. He'll put on Brutus, and he'll bookend his career, and it'll be great.
Yeah, and then we'll do one more. Gary Parrish of CBS Sports. He's been putting out a daily, way too early poll for the basketball next year, but he's got BYU all the way up to number 4 right now. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's awesome, and you know what? Embrace it, BYU fans. Embrace the hype, the excitement, because you don't get this sort of buzz and attention that often, so embrace it. We got to take a break. Hour number 3, we'll talk NFL Draft next.
It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's complete. Touchdown!
Cougar Sports Saturday. A presentation of KSL Sports.
Left wing for 3. He got it again!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Hour number 3 coming your way, and we asked producer Nate Slack to stay in here to just sort of moderate an NFL draft discussion here. I think it's worth having a little preview. The 2025 NFL draft starts Thursday. Lambeau is... You like Lambeau, Mitch?
Never been, but I think it's...
Like,
it's iconic.
Are they gonna jump into the stands after they're picked? Like, I'm trying to.
They really should. I think that's a great
everyone
idea.
does the Lambeau leap. You're going to the Bengals. Lambeau leap. With the 32nd pick, you're going to the Baltimore Ravens. It's just I'm having a hard time conceptualizing how it's gonna look. I do like that it rotates around, but if I'm being honest, like I thought the Vegas setup was fantastic.
Yes.
Do we need to rotate to Lambeau? Do we need to go to Cincy? Like, I don't know.
I think for Lambeau, I think it's just cool, because that's just a historic venue, and but I am curious to see how it sets up. I will say the top end of the NFL draft, aside, maybe we'll get to these guys a little bit later, Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. There's not much intrigue to me. That makes me go, oh, where's this guy going to end up?
Right.
I'm curious about the BYU guys and curious about who the Raiders are picking. But there's not this star power coming into the league outside of Shedeur and Travis Hunter that really kind of make me really curious captivated to sit down and watch that draft and say, who's getting picked and where are they going. I really want to see that. Maybe it's just because I'm getting maybe older. I don't know. Maybe it's like when I was growing up, I was like, I want to watch wire to wire every pick and see if I'm right. But as it feels like all of us in society, we're just getting stretched thin with time, and we got all these events, and everyone's so busy. It's hard to really sit down and hunker down and watch an entire draft anymore. But I am excited, and I'm curious to see, fresh off an 11-2 season, does that have a little bit more sway for some of these BYU guys who come in and maybe got a little bit of momentum behind them?
On that note, I think the fact that it's become such a TV product has hurt the draft. Because remember, when we were growing up, I also would watch it, and it was a one-day event, wasn't it? It was just from morning
2
till
days.
night.
They would do
They
this
did some Sunday
Saturday. They'd go 10 a.m. It used to be a long time ago on like a Tuesday, the whole thing. But that was like 12 rounds or something.
Right.
It used to be 10 a.m. on Saturdays, and they'd have the Sunday thing. And say, Mom, can I skip church and watch rounds 4 to 7?
Mitch,
No, Mitch. You have to take care of your teacher's quorum duties. Well, Mom, I kind of want to see where Fui Vakapunu's going to be drafted.
That's great.
That was a little bit later. Maybe it was more like Luke Staley, Kalani Sitake times.
I remember in the old days, though, the sound would go off, and it would like sort of interrupt the broadcast, and they would go to the pick.
Yes.
Now you'll see the pick is in, and you'll go another 5 minutes while they're breaking down some conversation, and I'm like, the pick has to be the priority. We need to keep the flow with the picks.
And also, too, I don't need to hear about pick 1 during day 3 of the draft. If I'm tuning into day 3 of the draft, I am looking for just ball talk.
Exactly.
Like, I want to know the nuances of this. And I know not everyone is trying to be, tuning in for that, but I'm sorry. If you're tuning into day 3 of the draft, you are a football junkie, and you want to talk ball. I don't need to hear about Shador on day 3 and this extensive breakdown.
Yep.
Just give me, each pick, break it down. I always hated when, a BYU guy would get picked, and it's like there was a commercial break, and I didn't get to hear Mike Mayock or Mel Kiper talk about it. I'm like, I wanted to hear the analysis. I want to hear what they say about the BYU guy. You're in the commercial. Get back to that pick. It's like, the last 5 selections. Like, no, break these guys down. I want to hear your thoughts on it. But, that's my nitpicks of the draft. And that's why I think I've gone more just to, I'll check it on my phone,
right.
and kick in when it's, something I'm interested in or a pick or a spot. But otherwise, it's more kind of consuming digitally now. I think that's probably a trend for a lot of people, too.
Yeah, agreed. Nate, specific to BYU, throw some names our way.
Yeah, so we'll start with Tyler Batty, just since we heard him talk about a half hour ago. Where do you guys think Tyler Batty goes? And I mean, he's going to get drafted, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think he is. I think he's going to go about 6th round is kind of the sweet spot to me. Maybe there's a case for, 5th round. Maybe we could see that. I just think that one thing that's been a positive development in this draft, and it's kind of a narrative that's been building, is that there doesn't seem to be as big of a talking point on age. And that's refreshing because I remember Bronco Mendenhall talking about that, how, our guys get older and they just get knocked on NFL draft boards. And that was always difficult for BYU to produce NFL draft picks. I feel like the age thing is going by the wayside, and teams are looking more at fits and what can they bring to the locker room. And then I think Batty also helps from a special teams perspective because he was part of a punt team at BYU. I'd say 6th round, though. I think that it's unfortunate that he didn't have the 10-plus sacks season.
Yep.
1.5 sacks, that was it. And hopefully, but I do think that he showed enough at the East-West Shrine, and he put up solid numbers at the Combine to where I think there's a case for late 5th, but I'd probably say comfortably 6th round would be my pick.
I'd like to see him. I mean, if he's going to go 6th, I almost would prefer him to go undrafted. But I think if there's a couple spots on the Pacific Coast in the NFC that I think would be really good fits for him, I'd love to see him go to San Francisco. When I think about all of the guys we're going to discuss, fit is of the utmost importance.
Yes.
And San Francisco is a team, and this is the reason why I think I look at some of these teams that are either about to commit a lot of money to a quarterback or they have to cut costs in certain areas because they're paying a quarterback, that's where there's an opportunity for a late-round guy and an undrafted guy to make a dent. And, look, they're already paying a lot to Bosa, so they're not going to be able to pay big-time money to other defensive ends. They need some discounted guys. And I think San Francisco would be a great fit. Another place that shed money on the defensive line in the offseason is Harbaugh's Chargers, the L.A. Chargers. They cut Bosa's brother. He ended up going to Buffalo, but they're not looking to spend a lot of money on the defensive line. Maybe there's an opportunity there as well. So I'd love to find him in L.A. or San Fran.
And that's a good point because defensive end is a spot where it is at a premium, and maybe that creates an opportunity to be higher. I think one thing that's always interesting about the NFL draft is that I think a lot of mock drafts and draft analysts, I think they feel like it's already set in stone where guys are going. Maybe that's the case for like the top 10 picks, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think when you're someone like a Tyler Batty, it could be a wide range. Maybe someone falls in love and it's the fourth round,
right,
and it's early day 3, and you're right off the board at 10 a.m. Local time, and you're getting ready for your next move. I feel like I've always seen BYU guys just go a little bit later than we expect. I remember a couple years ago when you and I were doing a remote at Rio Tinto or at America First RSL's field, and it was Tyler Algier. And we're like, why is no one taking Tyler Algier?
Right.
But then he goes to the great fit in Atlanta. At least it was great fit at the time because there was a clear opening, and it worked out. And I know Atlanta's also got Bijan Robinson, but it always just feels like BYU guys tend to go a little bit later than expected. There's been a few exceptions to guys going higher than maybe what we thought going into a draft, but I guess I always kind of just – it's almost like the NCAA tournament with BYU. I always just ding it by a round and say, okay, you're forecasted in the 5th round. We'll see you in the 6th.
Right.
I hope not, though. I hope Tyler goes,
if he
4th or 5th.
If he goes 4th or 5th, he's got a much better chance of making it
Yes.
through his rookie year. 6th and 7th, you're no different than the undrafted guys.
True.
Who are some other dudes, Nate, that you think have a chance to make it at the next level?
Well, one of the big things lately, I think, has just been with Caleb Etienne, and heading into last year, I think the bar was set really low for him because he kind of has struggled in 2023. And then BYU's success with offensive tackles being drafted the past
Though, is that taking
guys,
a hit
right?
after Kingsley? Because Kingsley bombed out in Kansas City.
He did, but he got drafted though. Like if you're playing left tackle at BYU, you're an NFL prospect, and that's why Jada taking over that spot in spring was significant. It's now a NFL position. You are an NFL prospect if you're lining up at left tackle at BYU. And to Nate's point about the measurables with Etienne, like it's undeniable. 6'6", 329. He is everything you want at the offensive line position. I remember seeing him for the first time when he arrived on campus. I thought, holy cow, this guy's going to be incredible. And I could have never envisioned those struggles that he had in 2023. But what a turnaround. And that's the sort of stuff that you love, too, was the guy had great work ethic and was willing to turn around. And he wanted to run it back another year. He missed he didn't go through the combine, which was crazy to me. He was maybe looking at BYU still for another year, but the whole JUCO thing didn't really bear the fruits that many thought it would produce. But I think Etienne, I think he gets a late round shot. I think someone takes him in the 6th or 7th round. I think someone's going to take a flyer to get his draft rights.
It was reported by Allie Barnes of Delta Sports. I don't know what that is and who that is, but that he had
That's an agent.
Okay, an agent. Recent meetings with Titans, Eagles, Packers, Commanders, Giants, and Raiders. I think the Eagles would be a home run fit. You look at what they did with Mekhi Becton last year, which in my opinion is a fair comp to Caleb Etienne, a physical freak, super tall, but very quick for their size and weight. Is he someone that maybe they look at him and say, let's plug him into the Becton role? Probably not a starter, but someone that, Becton was viewed as a long-term tackle. That did not pan out. He moved inside and worked for Philly. Maybe that's the future for Etienne. Any others quickly, Nate?
Jacob Robinson, I know he had a really good season last year, but he's a little undersized. Is he a guy who could sneak in the 6th or 7th?
I think he is. I mean, maybe not sneak into 6th or 7th, but I think he's got a legitimate shot to make a team.
He had a 4.39 40 at the Big 12 Pro Day. I think his testing and some of his numbers, he had great results at Big 12 Pro Day, and that was an event where I feel like after 2 years of that, I'd like to see it come back to campus personally.
Yep.
but it allowed for maybe a few more NFL personnel types to get eyes on him. And with that great result, I'd like to think that turns into maybe a draft pick, at least at a minimum. Draft is over. Mr. Irrelevant goes off the board. His phone line is blowing up, and he's got options. And then it becomes a situation of he just goes to the best fit, and he gets a nice cash infusion with an undrafted free agent deal. But he's going to get an NFL opportunity with the way he performed at Big 12 Pro Day. I think Robinson will do a nice job. And also, too, he's got great game film. He was awesome last year, the last 2 years for BYU. So, and he was someone that went 4 straight years, a lot of film and a lot of snaps at BYU. I think Jacob Robinson's got great football ahead of him still.
Any others?
Let's go with Connor Pay, because I think Connor Pay had a shot maybe after the 2023 season. He said he stayed because, you kind of struggle to get a draftable position if your team struggles. But I don't know if he did enough last year to get drafted. Do you guys think he has a shot as a free agent maybe?
I think he's got a shot as a free agent.
Yeah.
The offensive line position in the NFL is never been weaker, and I think there's opportunities for guys to make plays. Connor's super smart. I think he's physical enough. It's just you have to wonder with the health, too. I think that foot just completely derailed his senior season. What kind of lingering effect is there? And timing is everything in the NFL, and if that's not back, maybe the door closes. But I've always believed, Mitch, that Connor had NFL potential. He's big, big for a center. I think he's obviously can call out the reads, and he's a good leader. I'd like to believe that there's an opportunity for Connor.
I agree. I got to say, though, I'm a little bit surprised that after an 11-2 season, we're not talking about more BYU prospects feeling like locks to be draft picks. I don't know what causes that. I don't know, because you talk about Batty, Robinson, Pay. They've got multiple years of high-level production in a power conference, and they just had an 11-2 season. And look, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe all these guys go off the board 5th, 6th round, but it just feels like Batty's the only one that's a lock to be a draft pick, where everyone else feels like it could be undrafted free agent or it could be 6th to 7th round.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit discouraging. I'd like to see BYU get to a place where it's multiple picks, 2 to 3, and then you have a few years where 5 to 6, and maybe we talk about that in the other segment, next segment, 2026 guys, who could be the top picks.
Yes, let's do that. We got to get to a break on the other side. Which players on this year's roster, and we'll exclude people in the portal, they're actually on the roster, could have a chance of getting drafted in next year's 2026 NFL Draft.
Welcome back into Cougar Sports Saturday. Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte with you. NFL Draft next week. We'll have coverage next week here on the program and on KSLSports.com. We talked about guys that could get drafted this year. What about next year, Matt? 2026 NFL Draft prospects from BYU. Who are some players that you think could be, hearing their name called next season at this time?
I think there's 2 obvious ones. They need to have big years, and they need to be healthy. But Chase Roberts flirted with the draft this year, and now you look at his opportunity to be a clear-cut number 1, featured. He should have 80 targets minimum. Based off the depth chart. If that doesn't happen, I will seriously question Jake's decision-making and A-Rod's play calling, because that's the proven wide receiver. Yeah. Get that man the rock. And I think Chase certainly has the size to play at the next level. I think he's got to show maybe a little bit increased ability to separate this next year. But Chase is a guy, and then another dude that flirted with the league and was retained, Jack Kelly. I can't unhear Mel Kiper just raving, talking about him early in the season as a top 5 guy at his position. So Jack Kelly's another guy to me that I think clearly could make that jump.
I like that. I'd also add to Isaiah Glasker at the linebacker position. And then staying on the defensive side, Keanu Tanavasa, who told us on this show that his goal is to go one and done this year. A little bit older prospect signed in the class of 2019. He's still got 2 years of eligibility remaining, but Tanavasa, if he lives up to what Jay Hill believes he can be as the best defensive tackle in the country, you got to go if you become that this season. So he would be one. A guy that I think is the biggest beneficiary from that medical waiver, getting an extra year of eligibility, Maury Bamba. He's going to be a starter at cornerback. You saw flashes of it finally against Colorado, and really throughout last season in moments, but it didn't stand out because you had studs with Jacob Robinson at corner. But Maury Bamba, to me, has always had the measurables to be an NFL guy, and I think this is his chance, his breakout opportunity. If he's a big time this season, maybe we hear his name called, because cornerback, you got to be able to stop these high-powered attacks.
And when you say Maury Bamba, I just instantly think of Michael Davis. We all kind of wrote him off a little bit. Even his senior year, I think he was benched at one point, but then the measurables came into play, and he carved out a nice NFL career. And any other dark horses?
How about Will Ferrin?
I love that pick.
I can't get over that booming kick at the Alamo Bowl, that 54-yarder. Again, it was the noise off the foot, and it was in a dome stadium, so.
But still, you can hit from 60 plus.
It just was powerful, like that. I haven't been around many NFL kickers in my time covering BYU, but the power he has on the ball and how accurate he is at 50 plus now, Ferrin's awesome, and he is clutch too.
Is he one of the most underrated portal pickups of all time? Because that spring ball.
It's a good question.
When that spring ball occurred, when it was the battle between Matthias Dunn and Will Ferrin, I didn't think there was a viable kicker at one point.
None of us did. We were just seeing clank, miss, wide right.
And to your point on the power, I just didn't see that type of power.
No.
And now it is just flying off the foot. Will Ferrin is a weapon, and if you can nail from 60 plus, you got a chance. I think Will's a great choice.
Yeah, I mean, you don't think kickers and draft picks, but hey, 7th round flyer on a guy that will step in and could be your starter.
Guys have been picked as high as like the 3rd round lately as a kicker. So if he wins the Lou Groza, and let's say he's 25 or 27 and multiple 50 plus and has that pop, there's a chance.
I think Ferrin could be the best kicker in college football next year. I do.
Yes.
I maybe that's blue goggled, but I believe in him. I think he's outstanding. I'd also throw in Waylon Lapuaho too as an interior offensive lineman, and then let's say Isaiah Jada. I mean, you play left tackle at BYU. He's got 1 year left, but he wasn't great at Colorado. But this is your chance. I mean, that's the barometer. Like, to play left tackle at BYU now, got to be an NFL tackle. So I'll put him as a guy to watch in the NFL too.
Potentially our next guest, Jake Retzloff, if he has the type of year that he wants to have, and he's going to New York for the Heisman ceremony. Hey, you never know. We'll have our conversation with Jake next.
It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's complete. Another touchdown!
Cougar Sports Saturday. A presentation of KSL Sports.
Left wing for 3. He got it again!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Welcome back in to Cougar Sports Saturday. Gosh, it's been a great show, and it's not over yet. We got to get to a little Kevin Young stuff to finish the show. That'll be in the next segment. Our thoughts on the Phoenix Suns job opening. You know, that's starting to catch some waves. Does he kick the tires around on that? We'll get to that in a minute, but we got to continue talking some football here on a Cougar Sports Saturday, because look, yesterday was a shocking day with Keelan Marion entering the portal, and you just wonder kind of why. I think that's maybe the question at hand. Is he was featured so heavily in spring football, and it looked like he was going to be a critical weapon coming into the season, along with Chase Roberts and along with L.J. Martin and Carson Ryan. You just felt like, man, Keelan was going to be a big piece. But now he's in the portal, and he may not return. But one guy who is still committed to BYU football is Jake Retzloff, and Mitch Harper caught up with him at the end of spring football. They kind of had a roundtable interview with Jake, and here's that conversation, Mitch, with Jake.
Jake, this spring, what do you feel the offense accomplished this spring in these 14 or 15 practice, whatever it was?
Yeah, I think it was cool to see this team become this team. A big deal is like every year is a new year. Every team is a new team. The coolest part is that team last year got to end it with an Alamo Bowl game victory. And to be able to win the last game of the season is obviously a big deal, especially at a stage like that. And so, but unfortunately as it is like that's the last time that team will be together You know what I mean? And so now this is a new team, and to be able to discover this new team, this new offense with the new pieces we got has been super fun. And to watch these young guys who have developed for a while to step into bigger roles has been, kind of really rewarding to watch them step up into new places and watch these guys take over. It's been super fun. New leaders are rising, and it's been a blast.
Can you, along with yourself, who are some of those leaders that are emerging?
Yeah, a guy who led all last year, like Waylon Lupuaho, even though he was not playing the spring ball, he was leading. He was more involved in practice than a lot of the guys who did dress. And he was dialed into every play and always just getting on guys and supporting them and helping them out with technique and all this stuff and coaching them up. And it was cool to see a guy like that continue to rise, and guys like Bruce Mitchell and Austin Lewis and that O-line room really take over that room and be like, all right, we're going to be great. And this offensive line, that's a unit. They're as much as a unit as I've seen since I've been here at BYU. And then also watch these other leaders that you know about, like Chase Roberts, and see Keelan. He's got more of a leadership role than he ever has. Just guys step up and make plays. Like JoJo Phillips had an incredible spring. He was stepping up making plays like I'd never seen him make before. So you can just watch his progression. Has been super fun. Defense side of the ball, obviously guys like Keanu Tanavasa, immediate leader when he stepped on this campus. When he had that first step in that locker room, people knew he was a leader, and he didn't. Everybody just had a ton of respect for him right away. It wasn't just about the player he is, but the man he is. It's been super fun to see him grow as a leader in that respect. And same with some of these young guys, Keelan's obviously, but Trey, becoming more of a leader. Trey Alexander has done a good job of that. He brings the intensity, he brings the energy to practice every day with that defense. It's cool to see all that stuff, and just the new pieces. It's fun to watch those guys develop into the players they are.
It felt like it was competitive in spring too, just watching some of the observation periods that we got to see. You bring up Trey. I remember last week, I think you guys are going back and forth a little bit, John. I mean, just how competitive was spring? Super
competitive. I think that it was fun to watch the offense succeed in a lot of places, and I think the offense was more banged up than the defense was, and so especially later on, they got the best of us in a couple practices later on, and I was like, yeah, you guys can win those practices when we don't have any of our starters in. Good for you. So, but Trey doesn't care. He'll still talk all that crap and be super confident, and that's why we love Trey, because he's super confident. He's going to go on the field, and you're going to get the most out of him when you're on the field with him. You're going to believe in that guy to give everything for this program, and so that's why getting on the field with Trey is super exciting for anybody, offense or defense. But yeah, it's been fun. I mean, remember one scrimmage, we went out there offense and had a day. Offense scored a touchdown almost on every possession, which was interesting because defense made the first play of the day. The first drive was for the defense, but the later in the day, offense just completely took over. So the next week in practice, defense showed up and played their tails off, and it was super fun to get that back and forth going. As an offense, I hold our offense to a higher standard than that. I tell these guys, we are not a back and forth team, but with this defense is really good. And we know this is going to be one of the best defenses we play all year, so I take these reps really valuable. I try not to take any of these for granted, because seeing every single thing they show us is a piece of what we're going to see all year. And it's something that the veterans realize now. It's like, man, it was fun to play against you guys, but I'm excited to hit somebody else. And that hits a lot of the younger guys in fall camp, but a lot of those older guys are like, yeah, I'm excited for when we take the field that first game, October 30th.
What were some of the final, I don't know if you could say numbers, stats that you had in spring? Did coaches give you that? And I bring that up because last year, I remember you went the entire spring without any sort of interception. That was a big thing in really kind of giving you the chance to become QB1 last year. What were some of the numbers that Coach A-Rod and the staff said that were the final numbers in spring for you?
Yeah, we talked about completion percentage a lot. We talked about, it was more during spring ball what to work on and how to find these more. It wasn't necessarily an end result, and maybe we'll talk about something like that going into this fall. But I did throw an interception this spring, but I only threw it to Jack Kelly. He's the only guy who got one. So I'm going to have to live with that one, because that's a heck of a ball player. If he's going to get me, if anybody's going to get me, he's going to get me. I'm not going to lie to you. He's going to be a great player and go play a long career someday. But it was fun, and it was definitely disappointing to throw that first one to Jack, because dang it, I didn't do it. I did it last year, didn't do it this year. But
you talked about the leaders on this offense along with yourself. You got so much talent around you, it feels like, with L.J. Martin, who, if he's become a star at running back in that Alamo Bowl. He was fantastic. Offensive line, it's retooled, but it feels like there's a lot of depth there at O-line, and then wide receiver and tight end with Carson Ryan. Do you just feel like this is an offense that, what's the expectation here that you feel this could be? I mean, could this be one of the best offenses in college football, you think?
No doubt in my mind. that should be the case. It's a matter of how high we are on that ranking, not if we're on that top ranking. And to be honest with you, like, we have all the pieces we need. We're better at every position than we were last year. I just think that to be able to watch, like, these coaches go into their second, like Coach Woods coming to his second year on the team, like, his standard's set. His young guys are developing. Watching those guys come out there, and it's guys who came in at the same time as me, but they were like freshmen off of a mission or freshmen straight out of high school. Like, now they're, you know, guys in their second and third year, and now they're becoming, you know, redshirt juniors coming up or redshirt sophomores, and they're like just eager to get after it, and they're getting after it. And it's cool to watch that happen. And it's like, I'm just excited to see what those guys do. Those new guys over the next couple of years, maybe they don't see a lot of time this year, but they definitely provide depth for us this year. And even that O-line, the way they're coming in, which is, it's just fun to see the new attitude of these guys. And not that it's new, but it's just amplified more. And Coach Woods bringing those guys along with, you know, Coach Gilbride in his second year here has been awesome to see him. And then obviously, you know, him bringing a guy like Carson Ryan makes his job easier because he's just such a great player. And his feel for the game is great. He picked up this offense really quick. Tight end is a tough position in this offense. They got to know him. You know, they know the next most behind quarterback on what's going on in this team. So it's cool to see how fast he picked it up, and the year he's going to have is going to be special.
You noted at the beginning of the spring that you wanted to maybe add a little bit of weight to your frame, or like you're playing at 205 listed at. Where do you want to be playing at this fall?
Yeah, I see myself playing above 210 this next coming year. 212 is around where I see myself at. You know what I mean? This offseason is a time to lean out, put on the muscle, feel strong, feel stable in every area that's been, even the slightest bit banged up. Make sure it's fully stable, fully ready to go again, and feel more confident and more secure in my body than I did even a year before. You know what I mean? Going into this season, I want to feel even better. So when I do break down a little bit during the season, like everybody does, to be able to still feel like I'm better than I was last year. And so I'm excited for that opportunity. Working with Dan the man, Dan the nutritionist, he's unbelievable. He's gotten me, you know, I'm at around 11% body fat right now at 205, 206. And so I want to be at 10.5-ish, you know, sub 10.5 at 208 by the end of the summer. Getting to that weight come camp is going to be nice, because camp at quarterback is a lot different than other positions. I'll actually gain weight throughout camp because I'll seek out to do so. I'll be eating a lot at every meal and making sure I'm getting everything in. And so I add on those, you know, 3, 4, 5 pounds afterwards, and that's where I see myself at 212.
You kind of transformed physically since you've been here at BYU, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I just think back to that West Virginia game, your first career start. You see photos in that press conference room and where you are now. You're a different looking guy now.
Yeah, it's been unbelievable. I mean, I just give credit to guys like, you know, Coach Phyllis, strength conditioning, Dr. Skylar Main, those guys. I work with Sky mostly, but it's all under Phyllis's direction and Sky's direction, and Coach Colby and all that stuff and everything. I mean, those guys have been unbelievable. That, you know, the holistic look at everything. It's not about just what you do in the weight room. It's about what you do in your sleep routines and your nutritional habits with Dan. Like, all those guys have helped me so much, and the way I've been able to develop has just been just thanks to them. Those guys. Those are kind of guys like I'll keep in contact hopefully for the rest of my career, because they've been able to change my body into what it is now, and they see it being even better throughout the summer, and I just have full confidence in what they've done because of the results they provided me, right? It started out being this skinny JUCO kid coming in, especially off of like a surgery when I first got here and the tonsils and all that stuff, and then it became, you know, trying to get weight on, period, and that's why I was a skinny looking kid in my first year, and then the next year I was like, okay, let's turn this into good weight. But still only at 205, and so this year it'll be good to get that up to 210 to 12. But man, I believe in those guys like I've ever believed in any strength coach or nutrition coach I've ever had.
Do you have a name for this process? I know you've crossed paths with Tom Brady, so do you have like a TB12 version for yourself?
I don't think I do. I think just, I don't know. I've never thought of it like that. I just thought of it just as my journey, and it's been fun to deal with, just to work with guys like Skylar Main. I mean, he's the best of the best, man. He's just, I mean, that's one of the best hires Kalani made, was bringing a guy like him in, director of sports science. Just the science he applies to it. It's like he breaks it down to the numbers, the real stuff, and it's like it's proven, and he does great. And since he showed up, the numbers of this team has been unbelievable. Just how it's gone up, and Coach Phyllis obviously is a big deal on that, and also our nutrition and rehab just makes all the world difference.
Last couple of things for you, Jake, and appreciate the time. You were just talking moments ago about you got high aspirations for this team, but also individually, you'd like to have a chance to maybe be a finalist in New York, just as a Heisman guy. Like, what's it going to take to get there, you feel like? What does that look like on the field for you to be at that level in college football?
It's going to take a lot, obviously, and it's not something I'm not ready to do, to commit to this team. I said this to Rob Daniels, who's our corners coach, who just came in recently. He's fresh out of the NFL. Like, or CFL. He played more recently, but
And he's got a cannon of an arm. We saw that last week. Jeez, he's got a rocket.
We did. He's an incredible athlete, man. He's a well-rounded athlete, but he said, I mentioned that to him. He asked me my goal one day. I was like, I want to be in New York. Like, I want to be in the Heisman conversation. Like, not conversation. Like, I want to be at the ceremony. Like, I want to be that guy who's there, who's winning the Heisman Trophy and raising that thing up. And he said, you know what? You might not have as much of a social life as you thought you were going to have then. And I was like, you know what? That's not a bad thing for me. I'm okay with that. I can make that decision and be like, okay, if I'm not going to do so much things socially, I'm just going to make sure I'm becoming a better football player. I don't mind that at all, and so I'm excited for that process.
One more thing, just what's the summer going to look like for you, and then when fall camp gets going at the end of July, it's just what are you going to do to just kind of hit the ground running when fall camp starts?
Yeah, just be prepared. It's important to be able to give the body rest time here, like in the mind. Honestly, the mind more rest time than the body, because I'll be working out and stuff, but I'll just be chilling when it comes to football stuff for the first couple weeks here. I'll be getting, finishing up finals here, and I'm close to graduating, so making sure everything's taken care of there, and then I'll be back in California throwing with John Beck. Then I'll be, a short time after that, we'll be back training here, and it'll be fun. I think the only big thing I got going on is I'm going to go to Israel for a week, which is going to be exciting with a bunch of the guys. But
First time
ever.
Wow.
I'm super excited about it. It's going to be a blast. But other than that, it's going to be getting back to the process here. Strength and conditioning in the summer is vital, super important. We change our bodies. We change all these things about ourselves to make us better players in the summer. And so the dedication to that, along with the PRPs that will slowly ramp up, you know what I mean? It'll start slow, it'll just be thrown and turn into full-on practices with the guys out there all together as a team. So I'm excited for that process.
I know I said one more thing, but is the trip to Israel, is that part of your NIL deal, or is that just something that you
No,
you
it's part of an organization, Athletes for Israel, which is an incredible organization. It just brings together it brings athletes to Israel to see what it's like and to be able to explore the world.
Cool.
And athletes, especially the schedule we have don't have very much time to go see things that we'd love to see in the world. And Israel is one of those places, especially for any member of the church here or somebody like myself who believes in birthright and believes in that opportunity to go. So I'm excited for that. It's going to be a blast.
Welcome back into Cougar Sports Saturday. It's been a lot of fun. We have a great time on these off-season shows, talking BYU football. Not as much BYU basketball talk this week. Maybe should we even bring up the idea of how about Kevin Young?
Let's bring it up.
The Phoenix Suns. That job's open, Matt.
That job sucks. Let me.
Is there a possibility?
That job is an abomination. They will be paying buyouts to 3 coaches simultaneously: Monty Williams, Frank Vogel, and now Mike Budenholzer. They have no assets. They traded them all to get Kevin Durant, and now they want to trade Kevin to recoup some of those assets. And to be honest, they will have to unload everybody if they want to even be viable, because they are so deplete of assets. And you would think, look, Kevin has spoken highly of the Phoenix Suns job.
Yes.
His time there and that job and the success of what they had, that's gone. That is reminiscing on an old girlfriend from high school on the good times. But that's never coming back.
Booker's still there though, and there's clearly respect for Booker. I mean, if Booker
but the
says
ownership group is different, and
true.
Ishbia is being called out as maybe potentially the worst owner in sports, and also he would have been fired last year if he had stayed with Frank Vogel. That whole staff would have been gone. So it's a nice thought to go back with Booker and be with the Suns, but it's not the situation to where, when he talks about the Suns, he's talking about CP, D-Book, going to the finals, playing in the playoffs. Those days are so far gone, Mitch.
yes.
I don't know why. And then when you also factor in the real reasons he came to BYU, he wanted to improve his quality of life with his family. He wanted to have stability. He's got all that at BYU, and they're ascending. I don't know why after 1 year you would throw that out to go here. It's not like the Boston Celtics job has opened up.
Sure.
That's a different conversation. This isn't the Lakers with Luka and a future. This is the Suns, man. They're bad. I'm giving no thought to him even leaving back to the Suns.
I guess where I would maybe put a little bit of thought into it is just I don't know, how much does Kevin Young like college basketball? Like, I think there's Clearly he loves the style of play in the NBA, and I think sometimes the officiating style in college basketball drove him a little bit nuts.
It's awful.
And then you pair it up with a lot of just practices where you're developing guys through practices. You probably get a better sense of development through games, but you only have 31 guaranteed opportunities to develop guys in a game. So it's more about practices, and does that grind on someone? But yes, you hear the stories.
I'm sure it does. But then when you see him in the stands with his son watching a prospect in the state, you can't put a value on that.
Yeah, I'm at Highland High School, and Kevin Young comes to see A.J. DiBonsa and Davion Staten, and his son's there with him, and that's cool. And look, too, you didn't have to get Rob Wright in Waco. You could just conduct the interviews on Zoom, and then he comes to you.
Has he even traveled during this portal cycle? Probably not.
No, he doesn't have to. He can get stuff done on Zoom. And yes, sure, in the summertime, when it's Peach Jam, when it's all these big-time events, you're going to roll up and you have to be on those benches and go watch those high-profile guys. But guess what? Your name carries a lot of weight now. You're no longer just an afterthought when you get to Peach Jam. You're going to be one of the it things. So that's a nice environment to be in. So, but from the time restrictions and whatnot, there's a lot of opportunities for BYU, for Kevin Young to be at home, which was something that was a big thing for him, to be with his family and still be able to work at a high level and at a program that's got so much in front of them. BYU basketball, I'd like to think that you get A.J. DiBonsa and Rob Wright, and you want to see that through and coach that through, because those guys have such special talents, the likes of which maybe we've never seen at BYU. Those individual talents are some big-time players. Cannot wait to see what those guys could be at BYU. But it's an interesting thought, and that Phoenix Suns job is still open, and I think it's left many Cougar fans to wonder what might happen there. But, Kevin Young being at BYU makes still a lot of sense for him going forward. We got to end this thing. It's been a great show today. Big thanks to everyone. Big thanks to producer Nate Slack. Big thanks to you, Matt Baiamonte. I'm Mitch Harper. We'll talk to you next week here on Cougar Sports Saturday, and it's powered by KSL Sports.